From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Thursday, July the 2nd, 2020. We open with the continuing discussion on the possibility of Israel extending sovereignty to parts of the West Bank. As we reported to you, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu indicated that talks on the matter with the American officials in Israel this week are ongoing. And other reports say that some sort of coordinated decision is likely next week. The Vatican, meanwhile, summoned ambassadors from the U.S. and Israel to share its concern about Israel extending sovereignty. It was reported today that the rare meetings took place Tuesday between Vatican Secretary of State Cardinal Pietro Parolin and U.S. Ambassador Callista Gingrich and Israeli Ambassador Oren David. The Office of the Holy See released a statement last night saying that during the meeting, the Cardinal expressed the Holy See's concern regarding possible unilateral actions that may further jeopardize the search for peace between Israelis and Palestinians, as well as the delicate situation in the Middle East. The statement also reiterated the Vatican's stance that the State of Israel and the State of Palestine have the right to exist and to live in peace and security within internationally recognized borders, urging the parties to return to negotiations. Rival Palestinian factions say they will join forces to fight against Israel extending sovereignty. Fatah, which controls Palestinians in the West Bank and makes up the Palestinian Authority, held a press conference in Ramallah today, joined via video link with representatives from terror group Hamas, a highly unusual occurrence for the rivals who have been at odds for over a decade. Senior Fatah official Jibril Rajoub said today, "We want to speak in a single voice," referring to efforts against any Israeli action and calling the U.S. peace plan an American-Israeli conspiracy. The Jerusalem Post cites Hamas official Saleh al-Aruri, speaking from Beirut, saying, "We will lead our battle together under the flag of Palestine to achieve an independent and sovereign Palestinian state on the 1967 borders and solving the issue of the refugees on the basis of international resolutions." There were Palestinian demonstrations in the West Bank and Gaza yesterday against any Israeli unilateral action, part of a so-called Day of Rage, even though Israel has yet to announce any decision on the matter. Day of Rage anti-Israel demonstrations were also reported here in the U.S., including in Brooklyn, New York, and in Washington. And a follow-up now to our story on the anti-Israel letter circulating in the U.S. House of Representatives. As we reported to you, the letter, spearheaded by Representatives Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, Betty McCollum, and Pramila Jayapal, urges the U.S. to condition and cut aid to Israel if it goes ahead with applying sovereignty to parts of the West Bank. The Allgemeiner reports that the group, the Democratic Majority for Israel, said it opposes annexation, but is urging House Democrats not to sign the letter from Ocasio-Cortez, calling it bad policy, bad politics, and counterproductive to the goal of stopping annexation and encouraging a two-state solution. The Jewish Democratic Council of America similarly said that while they too oppose unilateral annexation, they also oppose conditioning or cutting security assistance to Israel. Neither, they said, are in the best interests of the U.S. or Israel. Executive Director of the JDCA, Haley Soifer, spoke to the Allgemeiner and referred to a more moderate letter sent to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu asking him to reconsider annexation. It was signed by 191 Democrats in the House. Soifer told the Allgemeiner an overwhelming majority of Democrats oppose unilateral Israeli annexation of parts of the West Bank, support Israel's security, and support the $38 billion Memorandum of Understanding between the U.S. and Israel. Well, as Israel sees a continued spike of coronavirus cases in the country, Israeli researchers said they have a better way to test for antibodies that could help better track the spread of the virus and better control its spread down the road. Professors Ariel Munitz and Mordechai Gerlich of the Tel Aviv University say their serological test is more efficient than what is being used now. It identifies all 3 key antibodies that fight against COVID-19 from one blood sample. During their research with Hasharon Hospital in Petah Tikva, the professors also discovered that seriously ill COVID patients developed antibodies much faster and sooner than those with mild symptoms, contradicting the thought that those critically ill with the virus could not make antibodies. Munitz said it is important to remember that overactivation of the immune system is responsible in many cases for the serious symptoms. Israel's health ministry began a major serological testing program on Monday, hoping to test about 70,000 people from 190 communities across the country, with tens of thousands more to be tested soon. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Thursday, July the 2nd. At 7 o'clock, it's Talmud study. At 8, millennials discuss how the time is now to fight against anti-Semitism. That's from the Israeli-American Council of New York at the JNF House. At 9, Mark Golub sits down with Rabbi and historian David Dallin on the contributions of the first 3 Jewish Supreme Court justices, Louis Brandeis, Benjamin Cardozo, and Felix Frankfurter. At 10:30, it's Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg on her judicial philosophy and thoughts on some critical issues. And coming up next, it's the ILTV's Insider. And looking ahead to the 4th of July weekend, Friday and Saturday, JBS will have more programming to celebrate America with Jeff Gurok, for example, Jonathan Sarna, and the film Blue and Gray, among others. You can always check our website, jbstv.org, for details. Wishing you a safe and happy 4th of July holiday weekend. I will be back with the JBS News Features Edition on Monday. I'm Teisha Bader. Stay safe, stay well. Shabbat Shalom.